Guys, have you ever just been sitting around and think to yourself, I just want to play with a bunch of switchblades? Well, guess what? I have a YouTube channel and I have a bunch of switchblades, so I get to do that. So I'll take you guys along. Keep watching, because we're going to look at a bunch of switchblades. It's a Switchblade Showdown. So these are a handful of knives. Now there are two Ultratech versions on here. I like them both. So technically it's only 3 knives and then the one that's the best on the market. But these are some of the best ones out there. And we're going to take a look at their merits and things like that. And then we'll take a look at the one that's just going to beat them all because it's the best. But it is prohibitively expensive. So let's look at this Harkins first and get this other stuff out of the way. So this first one is the Harkins Triton. This is a very limited knife. There weren't a lot of these made. They never really became a big competitor on the marketplace, but this is the Harkins Triton by Masters of Defense. This is a body mounted as opposed to side mounted. I like to say, let's say scale mounted, button lock or button auto. Double action. It's got a really tall button, and a lot like the deadlock, there's not a lot of play or slop in this. This is a really good build. It's done in 154 cm. This is in a dagger grind with serrations, and so this knife has a lot going for it. The action is really snappy and good. You've got nice aluminum scales here. You've got set screws for the gates on this, so you can adjust the action, if I remember correctly. The coffin-ended handles, and this is actual grip tape. That is not like rubberized stuff like you see on some other knives, like the Ken Onion Blur. That's actual grip tape. So snaps out really well. Like a lot of autos, it does have a little play, which you're going to see. There's only one knife here that doesn't. I oiled these up. All of these up just to give them, you know, the snappiest action and stuff like that. So of the batch we're looking at, this one I have to say is my second. Well, probably my third favorite of the batch. I have one. This is not my least favorite, but it's also not my favorite. It falls right in the middle of the other ones. So one of the big problems I have with it is these T6 screws that are in the pocket clip. Really easy to strip T6 screws, and as you can see, they're kind of not in there straight. So when I took this apart, cleaned it up, and did a bunch of stuff for the owner, I was really careful about these screws because I was afraid I'd get them cross-threaded. Not a real good pocket clip on this, and I don't like the fact it's tip up. That is a big problem for me, tip up carry on this. So it has a couple negatives, but not a lot. But you can see overall, really nice design. It is comfortable. I have to say it does feel light. And it's just like a lot of these you're going to see. It has that offset out the front where you've got it, you know, the clamshell is cut out here as opposed to dead center, which if you're not great at sharpening can be an issue, because then as you're holding it, your angles are going to be off from side to side because of that offset. You can see what I'm saying, just ever so slightly off from center. So there's the first one, the Harkins Triton by Masters of Defense. It is a pretty good one if you can find one. I wouldn't shy away from getting one of these. So the next couple knives are examples of basically the same knife. This is the Microtech Ultratech Double Action OTF. There is a Microtech model that I like better, which is the Combat Troodon. I don't have one of those here. I have done a video on the Combat Troodon. It is a great knife. This is the UTX 85, which is 85% size of the original Ultratech, which I do find to be a little large. These are big. They're a little bit big for what I would want to carry just in size-wise for an OTF. I find the UTX 85 to be great. These are side-mounted buttons on these. They are out the front, and just like all of these, they are double action, so that means that you're pushing the spring both ways. It's not a push button auto like the Halo 5. Microtech makes some of the best ones on the market. If I couldn't get a deadlock, a Microtech Ultratech or Combat Troodon would be what I would go for. And you can see I have 2 of them. I have a 2015 model, and then I have, I think this is a 2019, yeah, 2019 25th anniversary edition with the Spartan blade. These things are great. What I will say about them is they do have a couple problems that the other knives don't have. You don't have the these are tip down, which is my preference. The action on them is really good. Blades are done really well on this, and they are always attractive. That is my favorite as far as looks. This one is one that we've had around because my daughter likes it. So this is technically my daughter's Ultratech. And the action on them is usually really reliable. I have not had an Ultratech that I've owned. I've owned 5 Ultratechs now, counting these two. I've had 5 total, and I've never had an issue with them. So let's talk about some of the bad thing. The action on these is really stiff. If you have weak thumbs, you are going to have a hard time with these. There are a lot of sharp edges on the buttons. It might not be comfortable for everyone to deploy these knives. The other thing, this one's not as bad. The glass breaker on this one is horrendous. If you put this in your pocket, I don't care even if you're really fit. If you sit down, that's going to poke you. If you use one of those in the waistband Kydex sheaths, you're going to have some discomfort from this. The thing about these is like proprietary hardware. There's another down. And like I said, lots and lots of sharp spots. And the fact is these are really far offset, like I said on the last one, which for some people is going to pose a problem for sharpening. And the way they terminate, you don't have a lot of distance, so you're going to knock some of the finish off of them. But all in all, these are still great knives. There's just like, if you're going to be honest about a knife, you're going to always find some down parts, no matter how much you like it, even on my Norseman. So there's that one. Let's look at the next.
I hate to interrupt the video because I know we're having fun, but I do have to do the YouTuber thing and remind you that this channel is self-sponsored with all the affiliate links and stuff you see down below. Anything from knives, tools, EDC gear, and Blade HQ, anything, all the Amazon links, they all support the channel. It doesn't cost you anything at checkout. So I'll talk about that at the end of the video. Now let's go back to the knives.
So out of all the OTS we've got here, this one is my least favorite. And there's a few reasons, but let's talk about what it's got going for it. So it is attractive. It feels good in hand with the exception of the pocket clip being a little bit of a hotspot. You've got a body mounted, which is starting quickly to become my favorite, in the scale mounted, out the fronts. You've got a very attractive double-edged dagger blade. This is a McHenry Design. This one is in D2 steel. I meant to mention the steel LMAX for my Microtech Ultratech. So you can see you've got a big beefy handle. It has an aggressive forward look to it. It looks tactical, and it's not horribly uncomfortable in hand. This one is more centered than the other ones, much more so. It's still a little off center, but not much. It's just ever so slightly off, if at all. I think it might actually just be an optical illusion. I don't think it's offset. I think I fooled myself into that. Most of these come with a dagger grind, a chisel grind on the edge. This one obviously does not. I can't remember if Spitfire turned this into a V grind from a chisel grind or not, but it would appear so because I can see there on that. Like I said, D2 steel, it is coated, and the action is decent on this if it's lubricated well, which as you can see, I have. So now let's get into the bad parts of this. The amount of lubrication that I had to put on this to give this a chance to even compete against the other ones, which it still can't, is nuts. There is a lot of oil. You can see on that. You get oil everywhere. There's oil coming out, and when you have this big area here that is not narrow and recessed well like you have on these, as you can see, I did oil these, but I don't get my hand down in there on the oil. On this one, you absolutely are touching that. Now I have slippery, oily thumbs. I honestly have oil all over my thumb, and it feels slippery. Other thing, the action on this is sloppy, and there is a lot of play, more play than any of the other knives. And the fact that it is so off balance looking with such a narrow blade and then these broad handles, I don't like. And like I said, the last thing, the action on these is horrendous. You have to go so far. Look, I've traveled that far and I still haven't, there's not much tension there. It's just sloppy. And until you get to that last little piece, the deployment it just doesn't even start. It feels soft, but also difficult. I think I've mentioned that. You have to use a lot of pressure at that very last to deploy this. and it can be uncomfortable because that is very sharp. And the last thing is, pocket clip on this is horrible. I don't like the pocket clip on this at all. It can ruin what could be a really, really good knife is just ruined. And some of these knives are ambidextrous, but some of these knives are not. This one is another one that misses the shot. The Ultratechs technically are ambidextrous, but the two side ones are not. Well, none of the side ones are. So maybe I found a bad thing to say about the next knife. So there's the Benchmade Infidel. And so, like I said, least favorite of the batch. Which brings us to the one that's going to win every time, the Hawk Deadlock. And I wanted to do a comparison because I didn't want to only have this knife and then, be so struck with it. I wanted to give it a comparison. There is no comparison. That is so much better in action, just effortless. So let's look at this and see if I can find a negative, which I really can't. These things are immaculate. This is the 2022 model. The Deadlock Model C in 20 CV, patent pending. The action on this is just what you should look for in any OTF. The way it feels in hand, once deployed, perfectly balanced. There are no hot spots either way. This thing is buttery smooth in hand. The thing I didn't mention about the other ones, typically the dagger ground blades, let's get one out to compare. Typically these dagger ground blades, they're really thick behind the edge. So you can see how wide and how thick that bevel is. So shitty compared to this one. I don't even want to touch it anymore. The grind on this, it's done as a hollow grind. It comes down. It is really thin behind the edge for a dagger. It's not super thin behind the edge, but it is definitely thin behind the edge for a dagger, and it came screaming sharp, which is out of character for a lot of these. And the thing that this really has going for it, not just the action, is there's no play in that. It is locked up as hard as a flipper, not a flipper, but like a frame lock. So there is zero play in this. I have had no issues with deployment or anything on this. Pocket clip on this is perfect. If I had to find a negative, if I had to find one negative, and it has to do with the design, you really can't change it. The other two scale mounted buttons, or autos, the buttons. Sorry about that. Porky Pig stepped in and decided he wanted to stutter. The scale mounted button ones, none of them have a reversible pocket clip, so I can't really say that's a negative. But the pocket clip on this thing is great, great pocket clip. The way this feels in hand is amazing. And so in comparison, none of the other knives can compare. I just wanted to do another video about this, so that's why it got out and was part of this. But yeah, I can't find a negative. Being a right-handed person, I see nothing wrong with right-hand carry only. People complain and they scream and holler, and I'm like, you find me a left-handed pair of scissors, you find me a left-handed pencil sharpener, you find me a left-handed chainsaw, and I will agree that knife makers need to start making left-handed knives, because the fact is, they moved away from that. If you were a kid growing up, when I grew up, there were left-handed pencil sharpeners, there were left-handed scissors, there was red and green was left-handed scissors. All those things were done, and it just reached a point where companies realized it's not tenable to continue to put money into something for 10% of the population. And that probably, like 10% of the population, but 10% of the population is not going to buy that product. So this thing is great, still perfect. You're going to see a full review of this. I have carried it for some EDC purposes and stuff like that, but this was just fun. I wanted to get some switchblades out and play with some out-the-front switchblades. So, guys, the winner, as you expected, the Hawk Deadlock. So let's turn this around and do some final thoughts.
There you go, guys. As you expected, the winner is the Deadlock. And even though it's not ambidextrous, I still say it's perfect because, well, I'm not left-handed, so that's not a criteria for me. And none of the other side button OTFs are ambidextrous. So screw you, lefties. Guys, that's it. I just wanted to get these knives out and have some fun. This was a fun video. I enjoyed it. I get to mess around with these knives for a good bit this morning, but I have actual videos that I have planned to do, so I'm going to get on those. Guys, if you like the videos, give them a thumbs up. If you don't like them, give them a thumbs down. Please try to tell me why. I can't change the content if you don't tell me what you don't like. If you want to support the channel, it's as simple as like, share, subscribe, drop a comment, hit the bell icon. If you do hit the bell icon, make sure you've got notifications turned on your device. or you will not get notified of everything that goes up. When you hit the bell icon, make sure you hit all. If you want to support the channel financially, there's a few ways I've got set up where you can get a discount. I have got an affiliate link that has a built-in discount at Coffee Brand Coffee. Really good coffee. It's the coffee that I use here in the shop. I have got a Doll Strong Knives affiliate link that has a 10% discount, which are the kitchen knives that I currently am using, and the stones I'm probably going to be using moving forward because they're great. 10% off. And down there in the bottom, if you look, there is one called Flight Consolidator. It is the only one of my affiliates I have not tested, but I saw good reviews. You can save up to 3% off domestic air travel. There's a bunch of other affiliates. Just use them. Doesn't cost you anything extra. Check out. But those ones are a discount. Other ways you can do it. I have a tier-based membership. Everyone gets my Gilded server and has access to that. Baseline and premium tier members are automatically entered in a giveaway I do on the Gilded server, and premium tier members have access to a sharpening tutorial series. And the final way is I have a merchandise store on Ember Shirt Co, where I've set up yet another coupon code that saves you 10%, and that is CrazySharp, capital C, capital S. CrazySharp saves you 10% anywhere on Ember Shirt Co. Guys, that's it. This was a fun one. If you got them, play with them. That sounds bad. Enough sexual innuendo for the day. Guys, I love you all. Keep it clean in the comments section. If it's your birthday, happy birthday, and I will see you in the next video.